to a nice afternoon sleep now.
Yeah, I know. It's unfortunately, we will have the last session. So we have 5 presentations, 10 minutes each, and I urge people really to keep the 10 minutes. Otherwise, it will become very late. We might miss our bus. So, can I let you to start the session?
I've not looked at the session yet. I didn't realize.
Yeah, I need to leave for about 15 minutes to deal with an urgent issue.
Okay. Okay. So I can chair the session. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
That's fine. Okay, so I'm going to, at very short notice, I'm going to co-chair the session without my other co-chair. Can you imagine that? This is my fun. Okay, however, it's pretty straightforward for me, and it's all the work for our lovely speakers. So I'm going to flesh us through without any time wasting by me. We have a set of really short, sharp, interesting scientific presentations. So can I please call on Kartik to come up, if Kartik is the speaker? There are 4 presenters listed for this item.
Sorry. So Kartik is my colleague, and this is our presentation from last year. It was a mistake. This was supposed to be in the
Oh, sorry. So you are not presenting today.
tomorrow, another work, not this.
Okay, so this one is not for today.
No.
Okay, no, that's fine. Mistakes happen. That's okay. So I'll go straight on to the second one on the list. So this is somebody who is J. Maurer, I think, if I pronounce. Yes, that's great. Recommendations for assessing re-identification risks. Oh my goodness, this is just exactly what we need. After all of our discussions, your work is exactly what we have to hear. So this is perfect. So hopefully your slides are ready.
You can tell me afterwards if that is
Well, okay,
true.
yeah, but you're getting us thinking anyway.
Okay. Good. So thanks for still being with us here at that late hour. Actually, I just want to pick up maybe after that presentation your thoughts on distinguishing between anonymized data and pseudonymized data all the time, right? As we heard, most important is to look at the whole project and its environment and not strictly go to legal definitions, pseudonymized or anonymized data. So maybe this will also strengthen this point of view a bit more. So I'm happy to give you a very short overview about our recommendations for assessing re-identification risks in the secondary use of health data. And we provide you some insights on our developed data de-identification guidance that was developed during the Swiss Personalized Health Network in 22 at the very first time. So the Swiss Personalized Health Network is a national infrastructure that enables fair health data research, and it started as an initiative in 2014, focusing not only on technical interoperability issues, but also on regulatory ones. And those requirements for multicentric research projects, so that are really in need of a large volume of data, have always to make sure to meet certain requirements, right? So you see here a nice list of requirements you need to meet when you perform a multicenter research project, not only in Switzerland. I believe that this is almost true also for all European countries. And I just go directly to the very last point to save a bit time, right? So you have to de-identify data. So now for us, de-identified data is a term that is not existing actually, right? So it can be pseudonymized data or anonymized data, but the process in order to get to these data is the de-identification process. But in Switzerland, at least, there were no harmonized standards in the healthcare providing institutions. So those ones who are supposed to de-identify the data, right? We just heard it here. even so they have no clue how to do it in compliance with the legislation that applies. So SPHN was then therefore launching a task force to develop such recommendations for de-identifying data. And it should be, of course, a very self-evident and feasible process for the healthcare providing institutions. So it should not be too complicated. We heard the data protection impact assessment, right? So this is something that is not always done by researchers per se. So this approach here is for researchers, okay? Just to make that differentiation already here. And following a legal opinion, it was clear that it can't be only a rule-based approach as found in the Safe Harbor methodology of the US Health Insurance Portability Accountability Act. So it has to be combined with a risk-based approach. So a case-by-case assessment is always needed to make sure data is sufficiently de-identified. And the task force therefore developed a paper about the data de-identification processes, which consists basically of three phases with a very core process where you assess the risk of re-identification. So this guidance contains a template where you really assess the re-identification risk of your specific project. And I would just show you a brief snapshot of that template. You can go to that webpage and find all the information. You can take the QR code. A set three phases with phase one, where you find the re-identification risk assessment. And then the idea is once you have assessed your risk and you have provided specific answers about your project, so context related, but also answers about the routes you're selecting to de-identify your data, you are supposed to implement those routes for your project, verify they are sufficiently covering all your needs, and then also consider a periodic review, right? So for long-term projects, you have to make sure that your assessment is still valid. Needs for the project can change. For bigger projects, there might be new collaborators, new data recipients that you need to consider also in terms of technical security requirements and so on. So the re-identification risk assessment as the core of the data de-identification guidance is a simple Excel file at the moment and is currently further developed into a fancy digital tool so that it is a bit more handy. But basically this shows you quite nicely with the different tabs what you are looking into. So as said, it's not only really providing answers in terms of what routes you are selecting to de-identify your data. You also provide answers for your contract you're supposed to conduct with your partners, what environment you're using to analyze your data. So do you have a trusted research environment where you put your data and analyze it? How big is your cohort? And all these kind of additional things on top. And just here a glimpse of the data de-identification rules you can select. I took here the date of birth, which is a very tricky thing sometimes, right? You know you don't want to put the full date of birth in your project, so you are supposed maybe just to use the year of birth, or you decide with your partners to shift the date of birth by a certain random number. Whatever you pick, you have to make the specific cross, and then each answer given is associated with a risk level and weight that at the very end is calculating into your project risk profile, which is looking like that. It's a traffic light system. It's very intuitive done. And if it's green, no further action is needed. If it's yellow and red, it tells you, go back to your answers, make sure maybe to switch to another answer that further mitigates the risks. I give you a very quick example. If you said, I put my data on my laptop, it will immediately turn into red because this is a high-risk answer. We don't want to have sensitive personal health data on private laptops. And we know that for clinicians, that is a very easy thing, right? But we don't want to have these solutions anymore. Okay, and so with that, recommendations, we believe that this is a very nice supportive tool for researchers to assess the re-identification risk. And on top, for Switzerland, it serves also the need to document the process of anonymization or pseudonymization in a simple Excel file if you want so, and also tells you the ethical committees that are in need of such an assessment immediately if your project is going in a more risky way, or if you have sufficiently mitigated the risk of re-identifications of the individual subjects you are supposed to investigate. And with that, I thank very much, and I hope you will have a lovely evening after that.
Thank you.
Nice presentations.
Thank you very much. Fascinating tool. I'm actually going to get one of my team to contact you, and we want to have a play with this. This looks really good. So I'm delighted with that. Next, could I ask Shashi Pandit, if I pronounced rightly, to come and speak to us about a topic where I'm only going to reveal the first half of your title, Health Data as a Weapon. That's so interesting. I'll let you tell the rest of the title.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are the slides going to come up? Yeah. It's on there, but how do I get it here?
Oh.
I can see it there.
Yeah. Okay, they've arrived.
Okay. So my name is Shachi Pandit. I work with Roche. I am in the data privacy and sharing team, and I'm a privacy professional basically. And what I'm saying over here is in personal capacity, these are not the views of Roche necessarily. So it's not to be taken in the sense of Roche. So, yeah. So basically what I think is today, we have this era of expanded secondary data use. So we have national data hubs, we have international research collaborations, we have European health data space. All of these have the same ambition. What they want to do is the dormant data, they want to make it live, to personalize care, to have newer medicines, and that's great. That's absolutely great. It has great promise. I also want us to think collectively that about one quiet question that it also raises to my mind. When we talk of data protection, we often focus on cybersecurity, secure environments, anonymization, personal privacy. My question is that enough when it comes to health data? And is there a blind spot over there? So can an adversary get the data, doesn't need to hack, doesn't need to do a cyber attack, doesn't need to re-identify, and still exploit the data, exploit anonymized data, and create group harms? So I want us to explore that topic today. So this was a case that was in the news in 2023, where attackers, bad actors, they didn't do a cyber attack, they did credential stuffing, which essentially means they recycled other passwords to get access to data from 23andMe. And the thing I want to call out over here is this is not just random stealing of data. This was targeted. So they access the data. It's specially targeted to people of Jewish descent, and also there was some Chinese other targeting also, that was Chinese communities also targeted in that. So they did not, as was reported, they did not go one step ahead and re-identify the data. They just took whatever it was, and then they sold it on the dark web, or it was for sale on the dark web. So could this have created community harm? My answer, I think, is yes. And though it is not re-identified, it can create community harm. So anonymization might not necessarily be the silver bullet that we think it could be. Of course, this data was not lawfully gained, even if it was not through cyber attack, it wasn't lawfully gained. So I want to draw your attention to one more event. So this was reported in Reuters and in some other newspapers. So there is a group called BGI, which offers a routine prenatal test. It's called NIFTY. Approximately 8 million people in the world have taken it. It has been there in 52 countries. At least 13 are European countries as per reports. Now, this BGI group has helped science. It has actually helped it has cut the cost of genome sequencing, which actually helps a lot of things. But there is a small print which can be risky. So the test is actually co-developed with the country's military. This is a Chinese company. The test is actually co-developed with the country's military. The data is stored on state-funded gene banks. BGI has reportedly used military superpower computer for studies, and some of these studies were on Tibetan and specific subgroups. So essentially what data they have is maternal data, maternal genetic information, country information, height and weight. They have no names, and they say it is anonymized data. And they have, as far as whatever was observed, they have collected this data with proper consent. So it's not unlawfully collected. It is anonymized. Their privacy policy does say that the data may be shared with national security or for defense purposes, though they say that they have never requested of this. Now, US has seen this as a security risk. They say that it can engineer pathogens to target specific populations. So what I think we have is we have a blind spot over here. So even without cybersecurity attacks, without re-identification attempts, adversaries can profile anonymous data. And the hostile actors can then target populations by ethnicity, geography. So data which is shared in good faith, it always starts very honestly in terms of academic research. So data which is shared in good faith can then become a problem. It might cause harm. People might remember there was a Cambridge Analytica scandal, and it's not related to health data, but over there also the researcher was actually from Cambridge University, and it started off as an academic project, either under the guise of academic project or if it was genuinely an academic project, which then went on to become something else. So basically what I think is what begins as, innocently with lawful access for research can actually then become something else. And once anonymized data is gained lawfully, then at a group level, intelligence based on ethnicity, sexual orientation, disease, geography can be used for hostile processes. But so what does this mean? Does this mean that we stop sharing data? Of course not. We can't do that. We shouldn't do that. But then are these checks, my question is, are these checks that we currently have, cybersecurity and anonymization, are they really enough? And if not, what else do we need? So what is there currently in the space is, so we would have heard about the US DOJ rule, which kind of says that they have this, so they treat genomic data as strategic resource, and they restrict bulk transfer of health data to countries of concern, even if it was otherwise lawful. So it might be lawful, but if it is a country of concern, they have restricted that. That is the mechanism that they have used. I'm not saying it's good, bad, ugly, but it is a mechanism that is currently existing. What exists in China is that, again, genetic data is a national security asset. And so the interesting part is, if, let's say, there's a subsidiary of a foreign company working in China. So let's say an EU subsidiary, EU company has a subsidiary in China. it will have different rules on what it can access and what it can use. Whereas if you look at the reciprocity, if a Chinese company had a subsidiary in the EU, it wouldn't have the same level of restrictions. So that is something that we may want to note. Of course, I think that we are moving in the right direction, and there is work on data sovereignty kind of thing that is happening, wherein biotechnologies are being brought under the critical technology and investment screening framework, which is great, which I think is the right way forward. Also, member states are, I think it's France, Germany, and Denmark, but I could be wrong, are treating genomic data as strategic national capability. Definitely some of them are, which is potentially the right way to go about it. Then there's some other examples in terms of preventing group harm. So this was a case in, I don't know whether I'm going to pronounce the name of the tribe correct. It is Hawasupai is what I'm saying. I don't know what's the right pronunciation. So there was this thing in US where this data was collected from these people, this community, for diabetes research. And then it was repurposed to study schizophrenia, inbreeding, and their ancestry-related studies. And the group had not permitted this, and the group was quite upset with this, and then they filed a case on the researchers, because what came out did not show the community in the light that they would want to see themselves in. In 2010, this case was settled, but the key principle that emerged out of it was group consent. So essentially, if it's like a specific community that can have adverse impact on them, it's not just that you take consent from an individual person, but there's also a group of people representing the community, and consent has to be taken for that use from those representatives who will guard their interest. So that can be something that can be considered potentially, group consent as opposed to individual consent. Because individual consent, you don't really, an individual may not necessarily be able to foresee how and what can happen to the data, how and what can it be misused. Groups might be in a better position to do that. Another case, interestingly, was of Vodafone, and in COVID times, around March 2020, they were asked to, when it hit Europe, they were asked to give data of people's mobility. Now, even if it was aggregated, what they realized is that even in aggregated data, it can reveal patterns about small groups. This is location data. This is not health data, but there's something that we can take from here potentially about small groups. So what they conducted under the ethics thing, which they say went beyond the privacy requirements, was not just data protection impact assessment on individuals, or they conducted a group human assessment. So it was looked at as privacy of groups, of demographic as a whole, beyond regular privacy. And they have done it and they have deployed it. So there are papers on there in the public domain which can be referred to. So they wanted to ensure that there was no misuse of data. So that is another model that we could look at. So essentially what I think what we could do is, if we think that cybersecurity and anonymization may not necessarily be enough, there could be lawfully accessed data which can create group harms, then we might want to acknowledge moving broader from just PII to group identifying information. Can you identify groups in it? And there will be vulnerable groups and not vulnerable groups. Obviously, the focus will be on vulnerable groups. So we institutionalized something like the GPIA, which was done by Vodafone, which could, have questions like, could use of this data negatively affect a particular identifiable community? And if yes, what are the risks? How can they be mitigated? Then another thing that we could potentially do is geopolitical vetting, something which US and China have done as, hard legislations, but there could be something, and maybe in the EHDPC, which is assessing as to who is requesting this information, for what purpose, attention to international affiliation and state influence. Also, could this data, even if it is anonymized, end up funneling sensitive information to a foreign government or a hostile actor? That could be a check that is done. And I think the focus over here should be on circumvention risk. So is a researcher working on behalf of somebody else essentially and posing as an academic researcher. And then another thing is tech-enabled prohibition on demographic targeting. So what I mean is, if data is made available to people via a system, the queries they run are actually can be logged, can be traced. The queries can actually be automatically checked to what is it actually trying to see, and if the queries are actually trying, let's say you're trying to filter out on sensitive traits and potentially which is not in line with the research project, it could be automatically flagged. Technical tools can be built in the system to flag such queries which are actually targeting demographics. A better thing would be if they can also be linked to the project at hand, research at hand. So protection is just not left to the goodwill or a policy document or a contract, but it's actually built into the technology. If that would be great. And the last thing I want to say is that EU law forbids discrimination and protects human dignity. I think that in spirit should be extended even to anonymized data and to groups, not just to individual people, because with this rise of secondary use, these risks might increase. And so yes, I think new age, new reforms is what we actually need. And yeah, these are my thoughts. I mean, these are not this. These are just ideas for reflection. I think the risk is not adequately thought through, and it's increasing, and we need to focus on that. So, if you're interested in discussing more, do get in touch. But yes, thank you.
Round of applause. Well, I think you've powerfully proved the title of your talk. How can health data be a weapon? I think that is quite frightening. I learned a little bit about attribution risk as opposed to identifiable risk about 20 years ago from someone. And I think I've honestly just let it slip in the back of my mind. And your presentation is a very rude awakening of how frightening it's become in the meantime. I also think for those of you, just in terms of making sense of this, we spoke not many minutes ago about population opt-out, subpopulation opt-out, and what might be the triggers for a bias opt-out from a subpopulation. I think you've now warned us very powerfully about a mechanism that might actually trigger very unhelpful and frightening opt-outs from subpopulations if they believe they've been targeted in some way. So let's really wake up on this. And I know, Piri, if you've just come back in the room, but I think this is a topic we should spend more time on at the next event, if that's all right with you. Now, the last speaker for our session here today is Baka DIOP, if I've pronounced your name right, who's going to tell us about the hope, I hope, that synthetic data can bring us into this conundrum. Am I right that you're here and that you're going to speak to us on this topic? It's always a risk that I've pronounced the name wrongly, so I'll go.
I think Baka is about AI-powered.
No. It's from raw to synthetic, enabling. Oh, am I missing? Have I missed out one? I've missed out one. Sorry, I'm wrong. It's the title that's wrong. It's AI-powered anonymization, pseudonymization. My eye jumped to the wrong line. Are you here?
Looks like we're missing a few people.
So the topic is AI-powered anonymization, pseudonymization to enhance healthcare data security. Does that title, apologize if I've pronounced the name wrong, does that title immediately tell you, hey, that's my topic?
And the last one is from raw to synthetic.
Yeah, so let's jump to the raw to synthetic data topic. Are you here? Well, let me broaden the question. Is there anybody who believes they should be in this session of short topic presentations, who has been missed out because maybe there was an error on the web page I'm looking at? Is anybody feeling that they've been overlooked? Even I could say to, is it Eric in the control room? Do you have any slides that...
Eric, do you have any additional slides for today? No. So
Okay.
I think that answers the question. So, well, this is when you
Pierre-Yves, I
organize
will
this kind
just
of
say,
event.
as by way of handing over to you,
Yeah.
these have been, the ones we had, really high quality presentations and really, really important topics.
And I want to apologize because I had to step out to deal with an urgent issue, unfortunately. So hopefully have an excellent co-chair who is able to jump in.
My name isn't even on the program.
It is.
No, I didn't. Well, not on the
Okay. Well, something I would like to announce before we move, and so that you'll have a few minutes to freshen up, and so the bus is coming at 19:15 to pick us up to bring into Clifford Chance, where I don't see him. Where is yes? Patrice and his company are inviting us for cocktail dinner and the opportunity to network and talk about all the topics we've been talking about today. That would be great. I mean, if we leave early, we have more time to drink. One or two announcements I would like to use this time to explain a few things. We are working, so as I told you at the opening of this day, this event has been growing by about 20-25% plus every year. So it looks like there is really an interest in European health data protection. We have had contacts with a number of people from outside of Europe who are also interested in particular tomorrow in a session about international data transfer between data protection authorities. We have a colleague, Mohammed Al-Atlan, who is a member of the Gulf Council for CCC, what is disease? Is Mohammed here somewhere? No, I don't see him. Anyway, the 5 Gulf states are organizing, they have something about disease prevention. And of course, they are interested in exchanging data, and they're also very interested in the protection of the data they will have to exchange. So they're interested in us and they want to join us. We have colleagues from Brazil and India who are also associate member now with EHDPC. So we see how this area is opening. And so we are planning to expand our activities by creating a journal of health data protection, where we will start by simply publishing the text of the presentation that we will have along the conference, so that you have abstracts that you can that are written, that with all the pictures, of course, that were presented. And so this journal would be published, let's say, end of the first, beginning of the second quarter of 2026, just in time for where we will be opening the registration for the next meeting in October. We have already booked the dates. It will be the 14th to the 16th of October, probably at the same place, but you never know in Paris. And on top of that, Deepak mentioned also that we plan to open an academy, meaning that also a more like an exchange forum, also finding a way to train people in all these topics we have been talking about, which are pretty complex, and we see we have plenty of different skills and experience needed, and people who do not always find the right words to communicate with each other. I myself, I'm a scientist by training. I spent the 6 last years of my life at Sanofi in the legal department, which was kind of a culture shock, I must confess. Being my first direction committee with only lawyers and only non-lawyers, and I must say, first meeting, they were just throwing acronyms around that I had never heard in my life. So there is this, learning from the others, and I think Maud expressed that very well, and also Daniela, if I don't see her, maybe she's. And so I think that is at the center of our role also as DPO, especially in the health sector. So with these few words, I would like to thank you for your attention for these days. I hope you will enjoy the evening at the cocktail party at Clifford Chance. And tomorrow morning, we will be starting at 9 with, again, a very full day with very packed sessions. So I hope that you have enough stamina to stand it. And thank you very much again, and enjoy your evening.
Just like have like a super order. Yeah. Oh, right.